All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It is 1 minute to 2:30, so I'm just giving you a 1 minute warning. So go ahead and get settled, get a drink, some coffee, whatever you need, and we will be starting the webinar very, very shortly. Okay, so it's 2:31. We're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I am Jennifer Kryshka, CEO of the Jewish Women's Foundation of the Greater Palm Beaches. We are dedicated to creating social change to advance the status of women and girls in the United States and Israel. So we are a funder, we hold community education events, as well as advocacy events, and we run leadership development programs for teens and young women. So today we are joined by Naomi Marmon Grumet and Amma Sharabi, who are joining us from Israel. So it is evening time over there where they are. And they are with Eden Center. So this is actually our first Israeli grantee that we've had on Impact Tuesdays, and we're very excited to talk to them. This is a really wonderful organization that does such important work. So I'm going to start with Naomi. So thank you again for being here.
Having us, Jennifer.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. So I think that we should start by talking about the mikveh and what it is. And then, maybe explain to everyone kind of the importance of the mikveh in Israel.
So I'll just give you one sentence before that, which is what the Eden Center does in general. The Eden Center works to improve the experience of mikveh for all and any women who want to use it, to make it accessible to everybody, welcoming, and within that also to promote the spiritual, emotional, intimate, and physical health of Jewish women and families. And the mikveh is a ritual bath. Women use it in Israel and in Jewish life in general, either before their weddings. And in Israel, any woman who's getting married, in order to get married through the official Ministry of Religion, has to use the mikveh before she can get married. And women use the mikveh on a regular monthly cycle after they've had their menstrual period, and then they go to the mikveh. During the time of menstruation, they don't have intimate relations with their partner, and only after they go to the mikveh, they resume relations. So it's both a space of spiritual renewal, and it's also a place of renewal of a relationship. So it sort of ties together. And when we talk about the mikveh, when we go to the mikveh, we remove all of the barriers between ourselves and the water. We immerse ourselves completely in this spiritual concept. But in addition to doing that, there's a woman who accompanies us, called in Hebrew a belanit, or in English a mikveh attendant. And she accompanies us to make sure that we have completely submerged, because otherwise we haven't actually fulfilled what we're supposed to do. And that woman who's there with us, accompanies us at a time when we're completely undressed and more vulnerable. And, it's a special time for, in a woman's life. It happens to usually coincide with days of conception. It's the time right before she reunites with her partner. It's a time of, very intimate, looking at yourself head to toe. And so when a mikveh attendant is with a person during that time, it could be a very special woman-to-woman bond. There can be really a sense of, one woman supporting another, and the mikveh is totally a female space. And that's part of what we're trying to create, is a positive female, bonding space where we can really augment all the aspects of what it means to be a Jewish woman.
So, Naomi, tell us about your background and how you arrived at creating Attendant Center.
When I was in college, I went to Brandeis. I had to study something in order to fulfill my, to write a thesis. And I said, okay, I want to do something that's significant for Jewish women that I don't really know that much about. And I said, I want to pick something that has significance. Do I want to, within Jewish law, do I want to do something that has to do with lighting candles? Do I want to do something that has to do with some kind of holidays, or, making challah? And I said, no, there's one area that I really don't know so much about, but I've always been told that this is a woman's mitzvah. So that was the mikveh. And when I started to research 25 years ago, I thought I was going to hear about people's spiritual lives. I thought I was going to hear about how it connects them. This is a space that, connects you to God. And what I heard was so much more powerful, because I really asked people about, what does mikveh mean to you? How do you do it? The truth is that I grew up, my father was a rabbi, and this was one thing that I really didn't know about. I didn't even know if my mother went to the mikveh, because people really just don't talk about it. It's very private. It's, very much an intimate thing. And though I knew that this existed, I didn't know if it was actual. And I kind of started with this quest of, does anybody actually do this today? And I found out that many women do. But not only does it create a spiritual space, what I also heard was that women bring their whole selves. So I asked one woman, what does it mean to you to go to the mikveh? And she said, it's really hard for me to talk about it right now, because I just had 2 miscarriages. And when they talked to me about mikveh, they promised me that if I would keep these, the rules around mikveh and go to the mikveh, I would have a beautiful Jewish family. I don't even know if I'm going to have a family. That makes it so hard. And then I kept talking to other people, and I asked somebody else, what does it mean to you to go to the mikveh? And she said, well, I like going, but I don't really like having somebody look at me, and it makes me feel very self-conscious. And aside from what I feel when I'm going, then afterward I have to be intimate with my husband, and that always doesn't work out so well for us, because their relationship was a little rocky. And then I spoke to somebody who loved it, and she and her husband had the best relationship, and every month he would do something to surprise her. And I really saw, there were so many. I spoke to another woman who the mikveh was the only way she could protect herself from an abusive husband. It was her way of being able to control what would be in her relationship. And through this, I really understood that mikveh is about relationship. It's about our relationship to our bodies. It's about our relationship to our partners. It's about intimacy, fertility, sexuality, and all of these things. And then I understood why Chazal, why the rabbis said that this needs to be at the center of a community, because it is a place where women can reach out to women, and where so many parts of the woman's life cycle really come to a head. So the Eden Center was created in order to address some of the things that don't always get addressed, whether it's a space where we could talk about difficult things like miscarriage or infertility, or whether, where in Jewish life do we talk about menopause and what
Mhm.
happens when you come to the end of your period, and does intimacy still continue after that time, even if you're not going to the mikvah?
Right.
Um, so those are some of the issues that we talk about. And the program that you originally supported through the Jewish Women's Foundation, which we're very grateful for, is a program for mikveh attendants to help them understand all of the life realities that a woman might bring with her to the mikveh, whether it is a woman who's in an abusive relationship, or whether it's a woman who's going through infertility, or has had breast cancer, or is suffering with OCD or fearful of water. All of these issues, um, the sometimes the mikveh attendant is the only one who sees these things or
Mhm.
who knows about them. Sometimes she's the only one who has a real sense. And if a mikveh attendant knows how to reach out, she can make a tremendous difference in a woman's life.
Mhm.
So that is what we try to do, in addition to
Um,
educating people about the other areas of women's health and well-being.
So I do want to remind everyone, if you have a question, please go ahead and use the Q&A feature, and we will be happy to take your questions. There's so much to really get into. So can you tell me about the other programs that I'm probably less familiar with? Um, the mikveh attendant program we definitely are going to get to, but I'm interested to know about the other educational work that you're doing.
So the Eden Center works in three main areas. The first is professional training, mikveh attendants, training new attendants, continuing work for attendants who have already been in the field, and also training bridal teachers and groom teachers who sort of set up a couple before they get married and teach women the laws around mikveh. That's when we want them to start, for women to start off with positive, and for those who are training them to also know about these kind of topics. Um, the second realm that we work in is community education around areas of women's mental, physical, and spiritual health. So we do all kinds of community programs. On the 29th of October, we would love for any of the trustees or any women who are out there who want to come. We're having a program for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, where we are thankfully launching a new project that we just did about breast cancer and mikveh.
Mhm.
In addition to celebrating the fact that we are launching this new booklet, um, we have an awareness program that includes information about BRCA and who should be tested and when should be tested, and do Jewish women have a higher percent of BRCA?
Mhm.
Just general prevention and awareness about testing and our rates of breast cancer,
Mhm.
and also some it is a whole evening of information, and also from the from the Torah, like, why do we have an imperative to take care of ourselves, and how does it impact on this? We also do work on, as I'm menopause. We do work on. We had a whole sexual health series in the summertime. We do all
Mhm.
kinds of things like that. And the third thing that we do mainly is to create informational pamphlets for women around topics that might intersect with mikvah or not, or Jewish women and families. So we created this summer a beautiful pamphlet about infertility that has all different kinds of um, modern women wrote prayers and poems that connect to infertility, and ancient, including Hannah's prayer from the Bible. We created a framework for mindfulness around, dealing with infertility. So it's a really resource, and all kinds of other things like the breast cancer booklet, creating written materials, also for making mikvah a spiritual moment,
Mhm.
for things around weddings, all of those different areas, bringing together our spiritual, mental, and physical health all together.
It's amazing. And I have seen, a lot of what you've been producing. So I have to really say it's very impressive. Um, so I know that you mentioned women have to go to the mikveh in Israel before they get married. And I think that the misconception for a lot of people is that only Orthodox women go to the mikveh. So can you speak to that? Really in Israel, like who is using the mikveh, and I'm curious, like how many women would you say during a normal time, during a non-COVID year, use the mikveh maybe like on a monthly basis, let's say?
Well, Naama, do you want to answer the who comes? Because Naama actually works in the field.
Yeah, we actually, I'm living in a religious neighborhood, so naturally the majority of the women would be religious because that's their neighborhood. But we also have people coming in from other areas, also non-religious people, or what we call in Israel masortis. So they keep certain laws. They don't do all like living traditional, but I do keep, like, one of the important things is to keep the family rules and do come to mikveh. So we actually have old and young and all walks of life actually come to our mikveh, and you can see it, see it on them, like when they come, what they are, right? So we have all kinds of people coming, and of course we welcome everybody in the same mood, like with a smile, and yeah, we're happy for everybody that comes. It's important to us.
It really is women across the socioeconomic, social spectrum. Everybody in Israel comes to the mikveh, and there is some statistic that went around that 750,000 women on a regular basis are using the mikveh. It's a very widespread thing across communities. Again, in certainly, the bulk of regular monthly users would be Orthodox or ultra Orthodox or Masorti, traditional, as Naama said, but everybody.
Okay, yeah, I think that it's important just to illustrate that the mikveh is pretty significant in Israeli life. So,
Naama, interestingly, it's been a contentious issue a little bit in the COVID, because one of the things that was discussed politically is, what institutions are we closing, what institutions are we not closing, what institutions are safe, which institutions are not safe.
Right.
And there was a whole lot of discussion because the mikveh was one of the institutions that was both seen by the medical establishment to be safe because of the measures around the water and keeping it clean, and also the way that people go. But some people said, wait, why can you go to the mikveh, but you can't go, we were in lockdown for a long time. So that was really one of those things that was brought up. Why can you go to the mikveh, but you can't go somewhere else? But everybody agreed in the end, mikveh stays open.
So how are things going during COVID?
COVID brought up a lot of questions about, you're laughing.
Yeah, we got phone calls all the time, people coming in very worried. Is it safe? Could we come now? And like, what are the rules? What precautions should we take? And we had to calm down a lot of women, telling them it's completely safe. The water is safe. We put stuff in the water, so it is safe. And there was less people coming in the beginning, but gradually we're back to normal.
Right. They're definitely one of the things that the Eden Center really insisted on and focused on in the first few weeks, when it wasn't clear from day to day whether the mikveh was going to be one of the institutions that was closed or it was going to be deemed one of the essential institutions. And there are also men's mikvahs and women's mikvahs. men's mikvahs were closed because they don't have anybody like Naama, who's a mikvah attendant, and makes sure that it's cleaned in between. And when women come to the mikvah, they immerse individually. They have a preparation room. They undress and prepare themselves in their own room, and they immerse in the mikvah just with the mikvah attendant and the woman who's immersing. In a men's mikvah, that's not the case. There's not the same kind of obligation. It's more of a tradition to go now. And men's mikvahs are sort of, a big room like a swimming pool. Everybody takes off their clothes, comes at the same time, whoever's there, and there's no attendant. So men's mikvahs actually were closed, but women's mikvahs weren't. It's very important for us to protect that ability because women going to the mikvah affects a lot of things in the relationship as well as. And at the beginning of COVID, we worked very, very hard when I remember the anxiety and how many calls I got. Can I go? Can I not go? Are they going to close it? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to be able to be with my husband? And wait a minute, can I go during the day instead of when we usually go after sunset? Because if they close it tonight, that's going to mean I don't know when I can be with my husband next. I don't know a lot of anxiety. So we worked very, very hard to ensure that really what would be done in the mikvah would protect women's health and safety. And we put out infographics that were directed first at mikvah attendants on, social distancing and making sure they were using the right, gloves and making sure not to touch anybody, which they might have done to help somebody in a regular time. This is not the time to be doing that. What kind of chlorine levels do we have to be careful about? How do we have to clean the room? So for example, in a mikveh room where there might be women using one after the other, and again, Naama can speak to this as well or better than I can, we needed to make sure that if a woman comes into a room to prepare herself, that it's been cleaned, the door handles and the call button and the everything, and the shower and
the tap and the soap and the shower and the seat and everything.
Anything, because we want to protect women. And after those infographics, we put out infographics for women, how to make sure that your mikveh is safe and how to take yourself there safely. Prepare at home when you go to the mikveh, be there for a short time so you don't have, many women gathering at the mikveh at the same time, make an appointment beforehand, all kinds of things that came up during COVID and, really protecting women's ability to have the religious freedom to still go while protecting their health and safety at the same time.
Sure. So can you describe what goes into the process of going through the mikveh? I'm not sure if everyone who's watching has ever experienced that. So I would love to hear kind of, what that's like.
So there are two elements to going to the mikveh. One is what happens before in order to allow you to go to the mikveh. And the second is what happens on the actual day of mikveh preparation.
Okay.
So for women, we're not talking about, a person who's going because she's getting married, which is a little bit, but women who go on a monthly basis as, in their cycle, you get your period and you separate from your partner. For some people, that means that you have no physical contact with them at all. For some people, that means just no intimate contact. And then a week after 4 or 5 days when your period stops, then you have to count 7 clean days. And in order to do that, you have to just ensure that you are no longer bleeding. And then you count 7 clean days, and then you have your mikveh day. On the day of mikveh, you have to ensure that you are clean from head to toe before you go, because one of the rules of mikveh is that you can't have any separations between yourself and the water. So that means that really, like head to toe, you comb your hair, you make sure you blow your nose, you floss your teeth, even if you don't do it the rest of the month. You shave if you're normally shave, everything head to toe. And then you can come to the or immersed in the mikveh. And when you go into the mikveh, again, you are naked and you immerse in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Does that explain everything?
So there's a room that women go into to do the preparation, right, before they physically go in and enter into the water.
Right. So when you get to the mikveh, you're escorted into a preparation room, which some women prefer to do the preparation at home, but some women really prefer to be in the mikveh, do all their preparation in the mikveh, and then there's a corridor connecting between the preparation rooms and the mikveh room. And obviously or maybe not obviously, but the attendant isn't in your preparation room. It's only when you say that you're ready to immerse in the mikveh, then you call her and she will escort you when you go to the mikveh room. She'll meet you in the mikveh room and hopefully turn around while you're getting into the water. And
holding up a towel so you don't see her. Or
you could tell that Naama is a graduate of our program because this is something, protecting women's privacy, even in a moment that is sometimes not private, is so important to us.
Sure. All right. So let's talk more about the training program. So as you mentioned, Amma has been through the program, which is why, we asked her to be here, so we can get kind of an inside perspective on what that's like. So I guess walk us through like what the program entails, like what the goal of the program was when it was created, what the attendants are learning, and then I guess like what happens in the field once you're actually doing it.
So I'll be happy to share with you what the goals of the program were, and then Naama can speak about what it means when you actually get out there. When we created our program for mikveh attendants, we started by creating a program for mikveh attendants who were already working in the field, and we recognized that though they may have been trained in what are the technicalities of mikveh, oftentimes they had no training if they saw something on a woman, if there were signs that something was bothering her, they didn't know what to do. Like one woman came to me and said, I saw a handprint on a woman's back. How should I react? It was clearly a man's handprint on her back. And she said, I don't know what to do. I just saw something that's shocking to me, but can I say anything? What do I say? How do I address this issue? And so to us, it was very important that all of those kinds of issues that people might deal with, obviously abuse is one extreme.
Sure.
But even somebody who, is having a hard time in her relationship, this can be a time for her to share what's on her heart. And definitely people who are struggling or trying to get pregnant. And, it's very interesting now, COVID, apparently people who've had COVID, their fertility is reduced by 40%.
Oh,
so
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's a crazy statistic. So we're kind of gearing up for what this is going to mean. Certainly in communities that have had a lot of COVID, it's going to impact a lot. And I know that we've been in touch with a lot of the fertility support organizations who really see a lot of women at this time who are struggling. So when we created the program, we wanted a mikveh lady to be able to reach out a hand if she were, and also sometimes to be able to identify what are signs of somebody who is in crisis. And we therefore put together a program to train mikveh attendants about abuse, about sexual abuse, about postpartum depression, about infertility and miscarriage, and how they could be there for somebody really in a time of need. Fear of water, OCD, all of these things, which, none of us want to have, but are actually part of our community and we often don't see them. But mikveh attendants often do see them. And if they're trained in how to respond and how to respond sensitively and how to bring up when there are resources, so they can really be an unbelievable resource, woman to woman in a quiet way. Nobody else has to know. They can really raise issues. And from training mikveh attendants who have already been working in the field, we recognize that maybe rather than sort of trying to patch up, the lack, maybe it would be even better if we could train mikveh attendants from the beginning to combine their knowledge of Jewish law and halacha with this kind of sensitivity for the different issues that can arise and how they can extend a hand to other women. And in addition to that, especially in the scene of Israel, and one of the challenging aspects of mikveh in Israel is that much of the religious institutional level and the Ministry of Religious Affairs is controlled by the ultra-Orthodox. But women from all walks of life come to use the mikveh. It is crucially important to us that it be accessible, that every woman feel comfortable to use it, and that those who are serving in this public role of a mikveh attendant know how to make every woman feel comfortable wherever she's coming from, which was not part of the curriculum previously. And so combining those two different things, our training now really emphasizes that combination of respect for every woman and knowing also where are the places that within Jewish law you can be lenient and accepting, and where there's space. And the truth is that the mikveh never becomes unkosher. There's never something that one person can bring to the mikveh that affects somebody else. And it's a very personal mitzvah. So if I choose to do something one way, and that's my expression of spiritual devotion or how I want to do this in my relationship, nobody else should be judging how I'm doing that or intervening or telling me that it's wrong, which sometimes in the old model of mikveh attendant was really one of the major issues that many women had that made it very off-putting to go. So that's part of what our training is also about, that openness. So Naama can more speak to, what does the training give you in the field?
Right. The course that I participated in really gave me background, gave me, we learned several different topics on all those issues that Naomi already have mentioned, including also first aid, for instance, because that's also something that we need sometimes.
Oh, first aid.
And really, the course gave me confidence to know what to answer the women, know how to start a conversation when it's difficult, know how to listen, know the importance of to listen, also knowing the importance of giving the women a heartwarming welcome when they come and they feel wanted. It's a nice experience for them. And also especially for young brides that they have their first experience with the mikveh is very important. That is very positive and fulfilling. Just to give it a good start. So really gave me tools. The course gave me tools, what to do and how to behave, and as I said, the confidence to meet the problems that do appear when you meet somebody with autism that can't seem to get ready and continues talking, and you have to know how to break it up and get her in. When somebody comes and she's had a horrible day and she's not looking forward to what's going to come afterwards, then you give her an extra good towel or give her the best room or something. She feels appreciated, and things like that.
So when you're able to identify that someone is in, let's say, some type of crisis, right? Whether it's a health issue or it's abuse, What do you do once you identify that?
Like you can start with a very innocent, like very question that's like just leading or just letting her know that if she wants to talk, I'm here. Like not going straight on it and asking her very very straight, but letting her know that we Mikveh attendants are there to listen, and if she needs help, we're there, and we can also lead. If she needs help, we can give her phone numbers and persons she can talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And does that happen often?
Not so often, but it do happen. Yes.
I think it also depends on different mikveh attendants in different areas. Definitely see different things, and thankfully, not every woman who comes into a mikveh every single day is going through some kind of crisis.
Sure.
But we have lots of stories of mikveh attendants who started a conversation very much because they had a, feeling that something was going on. Like a woman who came in to a mikveh and she didn't make any eye contact. I may have told you this in the past. And she didn't make any eye contact, and she just said, "Can I please have my room?" And the mikveh attendant said, "Come in, welcome, how are you?" And she really didn't say anything. She just looked down. And even when she was immersing and went into the mikveh, this woman did not make any eye contact. So the mikveh lady said to her, when she got dressed, she took her to the side and she just said, "I just want you to know I'm here for you if you need anything." And she said, no, everything's fine. Nothing. She said, "Okay, I just want, the mikveh is a place you should go home happy. And, so if there's something on your heart that you want to share." And they started talking, and it turned out that this woman was the wife of a prominent ultra-Orthodox rabbi, and he abused her, and she feared for her 9 children. And she had never told anybody because she said, "Who would believe me? My husband is very well known, very well respected. Nobody's going to believe me." So the mikveh lady said to her, "Absolutely, you do not deserve to go through this. And they want to help you." And she gave her the number. And the woman did not even know that there's a crisis center that she can turn to, because in their community, they don't really talk about this. So she gave her the number and she gave her the card. And thank God she was receptive to taking it. And she said, that woman said, "Every month I go to a different mikveh, and you're the first person who ever reached out to me." So that was part of, from her having been in a course where she was able to identify and able to say, there's a red flag going on here. But I mean, I can tell you story after story, whether it's, women who came in and said, "Something is bothering me, and you look at me anyway, could you take a look? My breast is bleeding a little bit." And the mikveh knew to say to her, no, you should not have any bleeding, and you need to make an appointment. And it was stage 1. And luckily, because the mikveh lady knew to say to her, "No, you can't ignore it. You need to go now." That woman, had earlier detection than she might have had otherwise. And I mean, I could tell you story after story of the mikveh ladies who do speak to me, and different areas, in Dimona, when we did the course in the southern city of Dimona, every single mikveh attendant had a story of somebody who was being abused. Because unfortunately, that's the demographics. Where Naama lives, thank God she doesn't have that, but actually very close to where Naama lives, in one of the neighboring settlements. And Naama, you might have been involved in one of these stories as well. Listen, there's OCD and there's infertility, and all of those are everywhere.
Sure.
It's just a question of whether you're going to see it. So there was actually one of our graduates in the ongoing program that Naama takes part in, a mikveh attendant who called me before Rosh Hashanah that one of the men in the community came to her door, knocked on her door, and he said, "I brought you this basket to say thank you." It was a huge fruit basket. She's like, "What for me? What are you talking about?" And he said, "No, you know better than anybody that my wife suffers from OCD, and she hit it, and it was so affecting our relationship. There was nothing that we could do that it didn't, and I was about to give up on our marriage. I couldn't take it anymore. And you saw this in the mikveh, and every month you said to her, you know, there are people who can help you. I'm always here for you at the mikveh, but this can't be the only area of life that is difficult because you have OCD. Please go to see somebody who's a professional. And that woman did. And then the husband was coming to her to say, thank you, because you saved our marriage. We are only married now because of you coming, and every month just patiently saying to her, there's help, go for help. So there are lots of different kinds of stories.
Yeah, that's so amazing. It must make you feel really good about the work that you're doing, both of you.
Feels important to be there for people that need you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So do you work with then like social service agencies or other organizations, you know, to connect people and to send them to like specific places to get them help?
We do lots of partnering in our programs because we're an educational organization and a connecting women's welfare organization, but we're really connectors because we can't be experts in abuse and experts in infertility and experts in breast. So our job, what we see ourselves and what we see the mikveh attendants are our extension, and we're all a team together. Our job is to connect to the right organizations. And so very much an emphasis in our program is shituf pula, how do you say that? Cooperation and partnership with other organizations that work in the field. So for example, when it comes to a session about abuse, we'll call on the crisis center to give that session and for the mikveh attendants to meet women from the crisis center who could be helpful. And when it comes to OCD, we have a psychiatrist who comes in and explains what OCD is and how to make a referral and how you could do that. And same with postpartum depression, and the same with any of the topics that we speak about. We really try, we have a facilitator who's part of our staff who connects it all and helps to train the women in how to open the conversation and how to, you know, really, like, one of the things that we see as our main objective also is to really create the situation where the woman's space of the mikveh feels like a safe space and feels like a welcoming space for anybody who comes. And then you can have those other conversations as long as you know where to refer, as long as you know how to take that information and pass it on.
So how do these women learn about your program to know to apply to get the training? We have two tracks. We have the women who are already working in the field, and we have the women who want to train who have not been trained ever. So the second category is a lot of word of mouth. Social media, you know, anybody, and now we're having training online. So even women in Florida who want to participate and want to become mikveh attendants in Florida could join one of our trainings. Of course, one in English and not one in Hebrew, presumably. But if anybody wants to join in Hebrew, they can. And thank God, what I have found very beautiful is that a whole different kind of mikveh attendant. There's very much a stereotype of, you know, an older woman, right, Nama? An older woman from a certain kind of background, lower income, Haredi, who is the typical mikveh attendant. And one of our missions has been to say that women like you and me can be mikveh attendants. That any woman who wants to open up this beautiful space for other women should be able to do that, because within Jewish law, within the halacha, the requirement to be a mikveh attendant is to be Jewish and to be 12 years and a day. That's it. So
they should come. We should come in every, range and color, in order to make everybody feel comfortable. And for us, it's been important to also to have, different ages. Sometimes I could connect better to somebody who's older, but sometimes I want to see somebody who's my age when I go to the mikveh, who might understand what I'm going through right now, not as an ancient memory, but, would know what I might be going through. So it's been really exciting. We have a new program starting on Sunday, please God, online because of the corona reality. Right. And we have women coming from Ashkelon and from the north and the Galilee and from the Jordan Valley and from Jerusalem, and it's all different ages and all different stages. And it's really exciting and very beautiful. And some ultra-Orthodox and many who are not ultra-Orthodox, which is really one of our goals. And in the program that Naama participates in on an ongoing basis, we try to work together with the local religious councils because they're the ones who employ the mikveh attendants. So our aim is to have the local religious councils providing this education and working together. Sometimes it's a little challenging.
Yeah.
It's sometimes challenging to get our foot in the door. Women's organizations, where are your rabbis? Why are you running this instead of a rabbi running this? Sometimes there's a lot of, wait a minute, women don't need to know these kind of things. They only need to know Jewish law. So a lot of our work, you're making a face, but that I hear it every other day. Women don't need to know anything about this. This is not what the mikveh is about, but it is. And that's what our job is, to protect that space as a female space. Which sometimes, the powers that be in the political system don't understand that always.
So, okay, so given that that's a challenge, do you feel like part of maybe what you've been able to do in terms of education is education for the religious councils? Like, have you seen any growth, in that way with getting them to understand that these things are important for women to know about?
There has been unbelievable change in the last couple of years, even though change is slow. I mean, in the way that it works in Israel is there are local religious councils, and then there's the Ministry of Religious Affairs. The Ministry of Religious Affairs is in charge of all the religious councils. So we petitioned is the wrong word, but lobbied the Ministry of Religious Affairs to say, how is it that you allow religious councils to hire people and teach them 100 hours of halacha, of Jewish law, and not 1 minute about communication, and not 1 minute about abuse? How is that even possible? And as a result, 2 years ago, they changed the law because the position of a mikveh attendant is actually a governmental position. Some of these things, I don't know how to say them in English anymore, but
no, you're doing great.
So they changed the law, and they now, the requirement for every newly hired mikveh attendant, obviously there were people who were grandmothered in, but every new mikveh attendant must have 60-40. She has to have 40% halacha and 60% of these other things. And they made a whole list based on our recommendations of what a mikveh attendant has to learn that are about the social welfare issues. So that is a huge change that was directly inspired by the work that we're doing. And obviously that has trickled down because, some of the rabbis, but there's still a lot of resistance. Let's not kid ourselves,
Sure.
There are instances, we've worked with certain religious councils, like Naama lives in the Gush Etzion area, and the head of their religious council is very much in favor and very much in the same headspace. We've really worked all over the country, but I'll give you an example of change that I saw with the head rabbi in the Golan. At one point after we'd done a program there, he called me and he said, I need to hire a new mikveh attendant, and I'm debating who we should hire. So the first thing I said to him was, well, which mikveh attendants have you put on the committee to decide who's going to be the next mikveh attendant? And he was like, oh, we should have women deciding this? Shouldn't it just be the rabbi of the community? And I was like, well, I think it's a woman's position. I don't need to explain this all to you, right? So
Sure.
he said, okay, great idea. Then he called me again about a week and a half later after he decided which women were going to be on the committee. And he said, I need your advice. I said, great. How can I help you? He said, so we interviewed a couple of women for the position. The rabbi and I are inclined to the older, more religious woman with this and this background.
Mm-hmm.
The mikveh attendants and the women are inclined to the younger woman who doesn't have the same kind of background, who, like, it's kind of 2 to 2. What should we do? And I'm like, maybe the women should make the decision about what the women should have. And he's like,
Right.
okay, maybe you're right. So they actually did hire the woman who the mikveh, and it was like a whole shift in thinking for him. Like, oh, 1 second, right? And it had seriously never occurred to him that women should be part of the process.
Right.
That women should be, and if somebody has a gut and there's disagreements about what it should be, that maybe we should let the users
Right.
of service.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's pretty remarkable, So, I mean, clearly the work that you're doing affects so many different people and different aspects of the culture there, which is amazing. So I want to ask Naama, we have about 9 minutes left before we sign off. Just, I don't know, like maybe some significant experience that stands out to you, in your work as an attendant.
Yeah, the experience of getting brides, people that come for the first time, and having a wonderful experience, and their mothers like being very enthusiastic about the girls they were worried in front, how they're going to take it and how it's going to be, and the girls coming out and being like thanking me for a wonderful experience, and they didn't anticipate that it's going to be so amazing. And that's really something
that you have to explain, Naama, that you're really talking about non-religious brides, right?
Of course. Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. People that don't really, like also the mothers don't have that big experience. Maybe they only also went for the only for the wedding, and they maybe had a bad experience. We have had actually brides coming, and also the mothers want to participate, and they have another room, and they also go to the mikveh the same day, because they haven't been doing it for years, and they're talked into maybe it's time, like gently, of course, what is quite amazing to see. And then brides coming back, actually, because it was an amazing experience.
I think it's an interesting thing, because especially, I'm just going to give the background a little bit, but what Naama is addressing is that there's a lot of animosity oftentimes with women who feel forced to go to the mikveh because they have to in order to get a civil, there is no such thing as a civil marriage in Israel.
Right.
It's only a religious marriage. So you have to go to the mikveh. So if I'm forced to do this, it's not something I believe in. It's not something I want to do. Here I have to be in a very vulnerable position. And that was never something that seemed interesting to me. So when they go to a mikveh like Naama's mikveh and they have a positive experience, it's a whole, it totally undoes lots of preconceived ideas and lots of stereotypes and lots of tension between the religious and the non-religious community that exists as the sort of envelope to this whole discussion about mikveh. Mikveh is in a very political place between, being forced to do something that I didn't want to do, because religious freedom is a very different concept here.
That's an understatement. Yeah, we could do a whole other webinar just on that issue alone.
Yeah, so the truth is that that's part of like the undercurrent of what Eden is also working on, is recognizing and appreciating the differences and allowing everybody to choose what they want to do, and within that framework to have a positive experience of feeling accepted and feeling not pressured into doing something, but having the space to choose how I'm going to do it.
Have you seen with any of the attendants in all of the time that you've been doing this training, that the attendants who are more observant struggling with women who are coming in who are not observant?
That in our training, one of the main messages is like, everybody has their place, and it's not for you to decide for somebody else. And a real emphasis on respect for the other means accepting who she is and where she is and how she wants to express herself in this context. Within that, I mean, I see it all over, and I've seen so much change with mikveh attendants. At the beginning, like, they're going to convince somebody that they have to do it this way, that there's only one way to do it, that this is the best way and the only way and the right way. And I think now I can attest to this, that like, our message is, no, accept them for who they are. And this is their relationship. This is their relationship with God. This is their relationship with their partner. This is their relationship to their body. And you should not be deciding that for them, but you should respect them and invite them and welcome them to have a positive experience, a spiritual experience, a mindful experience, because that can make all the difference in the world. That is such a powerful way for one woman to be with another woman and to say, I'm here for you, but I'm here as you choose to be here, not as I choose for you to be here.
All right, so we just got a question that came through. This is an interesting question. All right, so the question is there an issue with transgender women coming to the mikveh? How is that handled?
I haven't experienced it, so I don't know.
That it's not such an issue here, because most transgender women don't choose to go to the mikveh on a regular basis. I can tell you that in certain communities of lesbians, there are lesbians who do go to the mikveh.
Yeah, we have had that. Oh, we had a bride recently that came with her coming wife, actually. Yes.
So that is becoming more, and Naama says it with a smile, but it's not.
It was awkward for me, but yes.
It's not. The phrase in Hebrew is "muvan me'elav." It's not like an obvious thing that a mikveh attendant would be like, "Yeah, of course we have lesbian women coming to the mikveh," because that is a very contested space within the religious and certainly in the ultra-Orthodox world. So being accepting of women who are lesbian and welcoming to them is, definitely a change in the approach. But transgender doesn't come up that often. I don't even know, the truth is, I don't even know what percentage of the population that is. Do you have any idea?
No, I couldn't say. So, all right, so we're coming up on 3:30. So, Naomi, for anyone who's interested in maybe participating in any of the educational programs that you have, what is the best way for them to get more information?
Definitely our website, www.theedencenter.com, the Eden or Eden Center. And
I'm putting it in the chat so everybody will have it.
great. Yeah, www.theattendantcenter.com. And most of the programs are there. And you can also email us, info@theattendantcenter.com, Facebook, Instagram, any of those different ways. There, right now we have in the coming week. Actually, last night we started a training in English for bridal teachers. On Sunday, we're starting a Hebrew program for mikveh attendants. On Sunday, we're also starting a training for groom teachers. And then we have the breast cancer program. And on Friday, we have a labor, delivery, and postpartum class. So there are lots of things going on, and you're all welcome to come visit, see. There's an active blog. We're supposed to have a blog going up about COVID and mikveh, and somebody who ended up going to the beach because she needed to go into quarantine and she wanted to go, and the mikveh is a natural beach. So you're welcome to read our blogs.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much to both of you. I know it's a bit late where you are, so I really enjoyed speaking with both of you and learning more about the great work you're doing.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share what we're doing. And we can't thank you enough for your support, which really enables us to do work all over the country. And in this time of COVID, has allowed us to pivot, which we would not have been able to do were it not for your support. So
well, we're so happy to be able to support the work that you're doing. So thank you to everyone who joined us today for this Impact Tuesdays webinar. If you would like to watch this webinar again, or you want to share it with someone, it will be posted on our website as always. If you would like to support JWF's work with a donation, we would greatly appreciate that, as we are 100% supported by individual donors. So you can make a donation on our website at jwfpalmbeach.org. I hope everyone stays well, and we will see you next month. Bye, ladies.
Thank you.